Hello and welcome to a special edition of Archaeoscoop. I've never felt compelled to make one of these before, but essentially this is going to be a bit of an extended examination of a particular news story, and that is the fact that now it is official: there are no Spitfires to be found in Burma. Now, for links linked with that news story, and also all the news stories in the past couple of days, please do, as always, check the information bar below. But today I'm just going to be talking about that one story. Now, as you're probably well aware, indeed as many of you have been joining us, Archaeoscoop has been taking great interest in the story of Spitfires buried in Burma, potentially, which has been unfolding and gathering pace in the past few months. It came to a head earlier this month in January with an expedition sent out to Burma with the goodwill of the British government and also lots of cooperation from the Burmese government to try and make this expedition happen, and now they have drawn a blank. Now, this announcement actually comes off the back of a rather bizarre 24 hours in this whole saga. Last night, a very quick-fire email was sent off, a press release from the press team behind the people sponsoring the expedition, i.e. wargames.eu, where they said the press conference with David Cundall, which was set to happen on the 20th of January, will not be taking place until further notice, and then, quote, "This is due to circumstances beyond our control." Now, that quick-fire email was only a couple of sentences, and I thought that rather than do a whole news article, I'd just post up, essentially, the quote very quickly onto the Archaeoscoop Facebook page. It very quickly got some fairly cynical responses, both on the page but also via sort of messages to the page as well. But I sort of held back. I didn't want to be overly cynical. But it seems that now that is the case. There is nothing to be found there. I'd just like to take a moment, though, to think about what this means. First of all, for archaeology. I don't think archaeologists, or the archaeologists involved specifically, Leeds University for example, have any reason to feel any embarrassment or shame in this matter. They've conducted an excellent archaeological investigation. They've gone out to investigate the report of a site, as you may well do if someone says, you know, well, we've found some coins in a field over there, and they've come back with a negative result. There's been no extended saga of will they, won't they. There's been no Piltdown-Man-ish style outlandish reporting from the team involved. They've simply gone out and come back with a negative result. So the archaeologists and archaeology can walk away from this with their heads held high. What concerns me, though, is what this whole saga says about the state of history preservation and also education in Britain, and the priorities of people who are involved in deciding what happens with such resources. That so much goodwill, political capital, the thawing of a relationship between Britain and Burma could be brought about essentially in the pursuit of a myth is bizarre. A myth propagated by very much an amateur historian and archaeologist. In any other circumstances it would be dismissed. But I suspect because the charismatic symbol of the Spitfire was invoked, it found an energy and a life which took it all the way to the very top of politics in Britain. This concerns me, especially in a time of austerity. We don't have the funds, and certainly the government shouldn't have the time and energy to be putting into helping this kind of project see the light of day. Especially when so many funding cuts, job losses, rejigging of educational priorities are happening right now in Britain, which are turning people either away from or actively stopping them from pursuing a career in history and archaeology and related subjects. It seems so bizarre that such a huge amount of energy was invested in a myth, when that energy, and I dare say, and at some point along the line, that money could have been put directly into helping history and archaeology in this country, or indeed elsewhere. It doesn't really matter where it goes, just not in the pursuit of a myth. Yes, I can see why it happened. As I say, the Spitfire is very charismatic. The idea of having a flyover Buckingham Palace and maybe raising the spirits of people probably only in London, for a day or two, and getting the BBC very excited must have really whet the appetites of the press officers and advisors in Number 10. But ultimately, it's all come to nothing, and what we've ended up with is a rather drawn out exploration of someone's fantasy. And it just strikes me as extremely bizarre. Now, obviously, there's been lots of conversations surrounding this. Lots of people on the internet have been commenting, talking about the timescales all being out, the advance and withdrawal of certain air forces or forces on the ground not fitting in with Mr. Kundal's ideas. But lots of these ideas, very reasonable ideas and thoughts, observations as to standard practice when withdrawing, for example, from a theatre of war, i.e. you don't leave weapons for the opposing army potentially to use, have been ignored once again in pursuit of a myth, in pursuit of a jingoish idea. And that's really what this boils down to, and this is why I am rambling slightly, is that I'm very concerned that rather than putting that amount of attention and energy into real historical projects, buildings and sites up and down the country which really do need attention and could do with that same amount of goodwill and political capital being expended, they've been ignored in pursuit of this idea, this sort of, as I say, jingoism, this sort of, yay, good old Blighty, eh, bringing Spitfires home, and being able to say to people, or we are the government, or I am the Prime Minister who allowed this to happen, or who made this happen. It smacks of ego, and I don't like it. So those are my thoughts really, and that's basically my question: is what does this say about the state of history and archaeology in Britain when ego and jingoism gathers more energy, is able to deploy more goodwill and, as I say, political capital in such a short space of time than even Stonehenge has and can. You know, Stonehenge has been waiting for decades to get a decent visitor centre, and it still hasn't happened. And yet, just because essentially some politicians get very excited at the prospect of Spitfires being found and being able to bring them home, a massive diversion of resources has come to pass. Yeah, what does that mean? Anyway, go and check out those news stories. I'll stop rambling. I am a little bit angry, if I'm honest, because finally we can all stop pretending that there was going to be something out there. It just wasn't going to happen, and it was all on very shaky evidence. So yes, I'm very annoyed. Go and read those stories. Please do comment below on what you think about this, what you think about the priorities of the people involved, and ultimately the people at the top of government who, as I say, pursued an idea of glory ahead of the reality facing archaeology and history in Britain today. I'll leave it there. Bye bye.